but it's like almost like you're in kind of like a dream, like a bad dream where you're like, this is what happens to everybody else, but not us,
Right.
kind
Right.
of thing. I mean, I hate to say it that way, and then but then it's happening.
Welcome back to the No Fit Too Small podcast. My name is Jackie Selsky. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications here at No Fit Too Small. We have some really special guests joining us all the way from South Dakota today, Kia and Ryan PD. And so to kick off this exciting conversation, I'm also joined today by Robin Boudreau.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, always. I wish you could be on the couch with me every time.
Well, I can.
Okay.
All right.
Well, welcome, Kia and Ryan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us, both you and Robin. This is such a pleasure and an honor to be here with you today. So thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
of course. And we have a little blue coordination going on. We'll touch on that later in the conversation. For those people watching, there is some meaning behind the blue today. So stay tuned for that. I would love to just maybe start off with your story and how you maybe came to know No Fit Too Small.
Ryan and I lost our son, Wells, when I was 28 weeks pregnant with him. And that was in August of 2021. And so we have been on this grief journey for some time now. And I met Robin this past summer. So it would have been, I believe, in June or July of 2024 at one of the No Foot Too Small events. It was one of their Angel Invitational Golf events in Des Moines, Iowa. And my sister-in-law had brought the event to my attention. She and Robin have a mutual friend by the name of Brooke, who had introduced us to the opportunity of participating in the golf event. And so two of my sister-in-laws and a friend of mine made the trek to Des Moines, and I am so, so happy that we did. I wasn't quite sure what we were getting into, but like we were just talking about, things happen in perfect time, and this truly was the perfect time for me to come and to meet Robin and to participate in this event and just feel very supported by all of the other lost parents and families that were at the event with us.
Much like I said to Kelsey, I think what is so beautiful and fascinating when we're talking about timing and these stories, our relationships, is I really have only known you since July. And for some reason, it just feels so much longer than that. I remember walking into Brooke's kitchen the night before the golf event and really truly meeting you for the first time. And I just knew in that moment that I would know you forever. It was just super, super special. And I'm sure we'll share all of Wells' story today. But I remember walking out that night, calling other folks on the team. And I said, you will have a blue balloon at that event tomorrow so that I can hand it to Kia. But I just hope you know how special you were to me from the moment I met you that night.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
And same
welcome.
to you.
When we met that night, how were you feeling? Because I do think that, Brooke provided the connection and the introduction to No Foot Too Small, but like you said, you didn't really know what you were walking into or what to expect the next day. So how were you feeling?
When I knew a little bit more about the organization behind this event that I would be attending, I was very excited. I was looking forward to meeting you, and I just really felt that this was the start of something much bigger. Not only the relationship with you, but Ryan and I have been wanting to do something in Wells' memory since we lost him 3 years ago. Whether it was some foundation or some way to provide help to other families that are going through or who would go through the same or similar situation that we did. And we haven't quite been able to pinpoint what that looks like yet. But being introduced to you and to No Foot Too Small, I just feel really, really strongly that this is the start of something bigger, of that exact thing that we've chosen or decided that we do want to do to make an impact and to help other families. So I would say it was a feeling of excitement that night to get to know you and then to be able to participate in that incredible event the next day. So.
Well, and I know why your sister-in-law wanted you to be at this golf event, but can you tell Wells' story and perhaps why golf in particular was so important in celebrating Wells?
Sure, absolutely. Do you want to take it?
Oh, you're doing great.
Okay.
Come on, Dad.
You'll have your chance. You'll have your opportunity.
I'm just a support agent here.
So Ryan and I have had 2 daughters previous to deciding that we wanted to add a 3rd child to our family, Stella and Georgia. And we had waited a few years, I would say, after Georgia to kind of land on that decision that we were ready to add a 3rd. And so I got pregnant with Wells. I had 2 very normal, easy pregnancies before this one. And for reasons unknown to us, I had just kind of a few strange things going on with the pregnancy. I was taking on a little more fluid than was typical. And so I was being monitored very closely for that. Other than that, things were going well. And at 27 weeks, something was just off. I wasn't feeling as much movement from the baby. At the time. We didn't know that he was a boy, but I was not feeling as much movement as I had been previously. So we went in and he checked out perfectly fine. It just happened to be, I think, a time where he was just more still. And so we went on throughout the next week and about almost exactly, I think, a week later, I was having the same experience, not feeling much movement. And the time that we were in before that, they had said, at any point in time, come in, we'll check you out, make sure everything is good to go, make sure baby's good. And so we did just that. We went back in and they hooked me up to the monitor, and that is the day that we got the unimaginable news that our baby did not have a heartbeat. And that was at 28 weeks. And the most just gut-wrenching words that you could possibly hear as a parent. Like I said, the unimaginable.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And so we had time while we were there to decide what our next steps would be, they gave me the option to deliver the baby right there that night. And that was just a decision that I was not ready to make for many, many reasons. And so we chose to wait and to go home that day. But it was an experience that I would wish upon nobody. And as many things that they tried to do for us in that moment, there was just nothing that could take that pain away, the pain of that initial news that he was not with us. And I felt very adamant that I needed time to process before we would deliver. And I knew that I wanted my OB that I had been with her years to be the one to deliver. And she happened to be on vacation, and I was able to get in touch with her. And we had set a date for, I think it was 5 days later, that she would be back to deliver Wells.
How did you make it through those 5 days?
That's a really good question. I look back on it and I remember the feelings like it was yesterday. There was so much pain and so much confusion, and I didn't know how I was going to do it, how I was going to do one more day. We didn't know how we were going to tell our girls. Didn't know how we were going to handle that. We didn't know how we were going to take what it to do what it took to
Sure.
make the arrangements that we needed to. Funeral arrangements. We didn't know how we were going to tell people, and so I did walk around for those 5 days carrying him, knowing that he was gone, and not knowing who I would run into or what I was going to say or how to explain things to them was extremely challenging.
I still don't know after all these years if I've really found the right word to describe what that feels like. I was only in that situation for a couple of days, but that was hard enough. I cannot imagine 5. Or when we're talking to Fee, 12 weeks, it's unimaginable. No.
It really
I mean,
is.
it felt like we were in an alternate reality. I mean, you kind of have the news
Sure.
delivered to you, and there's just such a high level of shock attached to that you just I don't even know how to process it. And it's there's days where you kind of do the rewind in your head of kind of being there and experiencing that, but it's like almost like you're in kind of like a dream, like a bad dream, where you're like, this is what happens to everybody else, but not us.
Right.
Kind of thing. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but then it's happening, and that was I think to Kia's point, like it was a very hard 5 days, and you didn't want to be around anyone, you didn't want to talk to anyone, and then you're prepping to go to the hospital, and it's like, normally what would be this very exciting, joyful, like, a high level of anticipation, and then you're just like, you kind of know what the end result is, and that was hard and hard to describe, frankly, because you just already kind of, when you are delivered with news like that, and then you kind of have this initial feeling of pain and grief and loss, and you're not even there yet. And then you just, it's, I guess on one hand, an opportunity that you kind of have to sit with it, like, and prepare yourself, although that's not even possible. And then, it was, I think, the second day or whatever, and we were not going to find out what the gender of the baby was. And then, I mean, I think I have that memory kind of burned in my mind pretty good. It was a very sunny, bright August day, and we found out that it was a boy. And strangely enough, I think the day that we found out that we lost Wells, we had actually settled on the name that day and had a lot of back and forth. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it just kind of takes you back.
I think when I reflect on that time, I maybe didn't realize it then, and maybe you didn't either, but is this internal battle of hanging on and letting go, right? And trying to figure out which way is the right way, or when will I be ready to let go?
It's a really great way to to describe what we were feeling.
Yeah.
And to Ryan's comment about being told that you've lost your baby, but then knowing that in a few days you will deliver your baby and that it will be, he or she will be a lifeless baby, is something that I recall being told that we had lost him, thinking that was the worst day of my life. Like, I could not experience anything more painful until we were at the hospital and I still had to labor and birth and spend time, which was beautiful in so many ways, but you spend a limited amount of time with your stillborn baby. We had, I think it was maybe 36 hours that we had with Wells. Am I wrong? Okay.
And you maybe didn't even sleep for those 36 hours, right? Soaking up every ounce.
No,
right.
No. and um and then we were able to do what we wanted with our time in the hospital. We were able to have our girls there with us to meet him, to hold him. Um, we got to hold him, to snuggle him. We had our parents come up. That was very important for grandparents to meet Wells. They got to hold him. We were able to capture moments, memories with him on camera. Um, and then the caregivers take him from you. They took him from us, and that was the worst day of my life.
By far the
That
worst
was
moment.
even harder than finding out that he was gone.
Nobody should have to endure that.
No.
No. No, nobody should have to say goodbye like that. And those were hard days. Those were hard hours. We had an amazing care team that we're so, so grateful for. But none of that takes away
No.
any of the horrible pain that we felt in those moments, in those hours.
I think it's really powerful that you advocated for yourself and knew that you wanted your doctor to be the one in the room with you and somebody you felt comfortable with. I think I would just want to call that out for other families listening, that you can take all the time you need to make the decisions
Right.
that you need to make. And so kudos to you guys for really advocating for yourselves to make sure that you had the right people there with you in that moment.
And that's such an emotional time that you're not thinking completely clearly. You've been told so many things. You have so many different thoughts going through your mind, and then on top of all of that, you're wanting to do everything right. You're wanting to make sure that you're maximizing this very little time that you have with your baby. We wanted to maximize that time that we had with Wells, and I guess just not have regrets about that little time that we spent with him. And so we're grateful that we were able to have the girls there, our parents there. We had our priest come up and bless him and say a blessing over us, which was important.
I remember coming home from the hospital before I delivered Bo, and there was a knock on the door, and I thought, my goodness, I wasn't expecting any company, and it was the funeral home, right? And they were showing up to have a conversation about, what are your plans? What kind of funeral do you want to have? We will cremate Bo at no charge.
Wow.
And so I imagine that the experience was similar for you. They maybe didn't show up unannounced, but obviously the next step after letting him go is planning that celebration of life. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean,
Ryan has a lot to say about this, so I'll let him.
I don't know this part of your story. I know what happened after the funeral, but I don't know.
No, I mean, it's just, yeah, I don't even know how to really capture. I mean, you don't want to ever have to go through that.
No.
And you're kind of coming off just being emotionally drained. You're just, filled with kind of pain and grief. And then you're kind of going through this process, and it's hard. I mean, there's just no way to really articulate it in a way that, kind of covers it.
I remember us needing to go to the funeral home to make some of those arrangements and to sign the papers. And I recall us putting that off and avoiding it as long as we could. And then we got there and we understood why.
Right.
It was not an experience that we ever expected that we were going to have. And it's not an enjoyable one by any means. But we did choose to have Wells cremated, and even that in itself was just a horrible decision to have to make. But we made sure that we were in touch with the funeral home, that we knew exactly when it was happening, and we reached out to our family just to say an extra prayer at the exact time that it was happening. And it was helpful to be able to just do some special things like that along the way.
There's a couple moments that I remember vividly. One, walking out of the hospital hollow, right? Well, I guess I wasn't walking. I was in a wheelchair. Maybe you were also. And my Ryan was wheeling me out. So leaving the hospital hollow, first of all. But then a week later, going to the funeral home to pick up his ashes, to pick up his urn. And just that internal, like, my goodness, a week ago I was pregnant with this, what I thought was healthy baby boy. And now here I am holding him in an urn. Is just, again, no words for it.
No, there aren't. And then to answer the questions that your children have, our girls had, that is just a whole nother level of challenges. And so we did bring him home, and we had a very beautiful ceremony memorial at our church that our priest who we just adore did for us. And he had a beautiful message, and cousins were there, grandparents were there, and it's yeah.
How old were your two girls at the time?
Let's see, they would have been 6 and 4.
6 and 4.
6 and 4. And as I said earlier, that was a huge concern of mine. How are we going to sit these two little girls down and explain to them what happened to their baby? Baby's been growing inside of mom's tummy for this long, and all of a sudden he's not. And it was amazing how well they actually understood it. I was afraid it was going to, because of their ages, that it was going to be very challenging for them to understand. And they understood it. It was just so real to them. Is something that I remember, just how real it was, and the questions that they had. And I feel very grateful that they were in a school system where they get to go to school, and they get to pray, and they get to learn about heaven. And I think that was a huge help with the initial learning of his passing for them, but then also just has been for their grief journey as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts of most of these stories is just how the earthly siblings carry their legacy forward in just the most beautiful way. They do seem to grasp it on such a mature level, to our surprise every time for some reason. We don't give them enough credit, but I'd love to hear some of the ways that today they are still celebrating Wells with you.
And you're exactly right. They have been the biggest gift to us, the biggest blessing to us on this journey, because they are the ones in the moments, in the really hard times, the hard days, that will come with just something that they have seen that has reminded them of him. Or we call him Wells God winks. So things that they see, we associate the sunrises and the sunsets with him. And so our girls, for the last 3 years, will have us come to the window to look at a special sunrise or a special sunset. And we call them Wellsy sunsets and Wellsy sunrises. And so that's just one way. We have pictures of Wells all over our house. We pray for him constantly.
Girls put up a stocking for him at Christmas.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Put up stockings for him at Christmas, and you know, we really started that from the beginning. When I learned that we had lost him, I took the girls out and we bought him stuffed animals and we bought him blankets that they got to give to him at the hospital. And I think all of this is just a part of um honoring him and ensuring that he's not forgotten. And that was for sure my biggest fear in losing him, and probably still is that he may be forgotten. And he was very real. It was a very real pregnancy. It was a very real life. And so all of these things that we do at home that our girls do, we will continue to do. And I know it's all a part in keeping him alive and reminding us every day that he is with us. We celebrate his birthday. His birthday is August 11th, and we celebrate every year with a birthday cake, with releasing balloons. Last year, the girls wrote messages on balloons to Wells that we released. Georgia made a birthday cake for him. And so there's many things that we can do to make that day special and so to honor him.
So we did leave out one part so far. You did go on to have a rainbow baby.
We did.
What was that journey like for you?
You know, this is where we see and feel our joy and our grief interceding. It's Penelope was, let's see, I was
also that name is fantastic.
It's adorable.
Penelope. Oh, and she's a Penelope. She's a spicy Penelope. But she's really proved that joy and grief can exist together. I found out that I was pregnant with Penelope, oh gosh, less than a year. Or sorry, I'm losing my timeline here. It's amazing the things that you forget every year. So we found out we were pregnant with Penelope about 3 months after Wells had passed, and that wasn't necessarily our plan, but it was God's plan, and we became okay with that very quickly. I had a very easy pregnancy with her. Physically, emotionally, it was a roller coaster, as anyone who's been in this situation can imagine and can understand. But she was born. Penelope was born in June of 2022, so she'll be 3 coming up this June, and she is just the most incredible gift from God. She is exactly what our family needed after going through what we did with Wells. And she, right now, we look at her and we see Wells in everything she does. We know that he played a part in sending her
ready or not, here she comes.
Yeah, exactly. And I always laugh because I think her personality is so strong that I think that there's like part of his personality in her, and along with her own personality.
Double.
Did you just say she's got split personality or double the personality?
I think again, just thinking about the two very like conflicting emotions, the joy and then everything, all the emotions that you feel along with grief. I think Ryan could speak a little bit to just what that experience was, showing up to the hospital that we had just been at 9 months earlier, and wanting to have so much excitement for this new life that we were bringing into the world. Yet there was, of course, enough fear there. too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was fear, there was excitement, just so many conflicting emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the whole period of it was, this funny mix of
Hmm.
joy, fear, excitement, kind of intermixed at any moment. And she is a spark plug, that's for sure. But there, you know, certainly some God winks associated with her kind of entry into the world. I mean,
Mm.
I is this too much information? Not for this story?
Nope.
No? Okay. So, we were on high alert when after you kind of go through what you go through, and we went in to deliver Penelope. We did know we were having a girl. We kind of knew it was a Penelope, and a funny thing happened. The Penelope was head down. We were getting ready to go have Kia deliver naturally, and the doc went away and came back. I was basically going to break her water, and she's like, "Well, I better check one more time." And she's like, she flipped, and she's like, "I've been doing this for a long, long time, and I've not seen a
Right.
baby flip." And so we kind of go through the options, and she's like, "I could deliver naturally, or we could do a C-section." And I think we kind of caucused on it, if you will, and it's like, let's just try to eliminate as much risk as possible. And I think as it would turn out, the she was delivered, but the cord was wrapped around her neck several times, and probably would have been you can't speculate, but a difficult natural birth. And so I think we kind of think that there was a Wells factor in there of kind of, maybe turning her around or guiding her or whatever the case may be. And so they're just kind of just her entry into the world had just sort of a Wells touch to it. So, or at least you'd like to think so.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it absolutely did. I know that he was I know that he was there for that entire experience, um and I don't think that we mentioned this when we were telling his story, but that is ultimately what happened with him. He had a cord wrap as well. And so just, to know that that was potential for her, and that we were saved and she was saved by the grace of God and by his part in it, Will's part in it is just an incredible part of our story that we love to share. We love to share all of it. Really, it's just such a joy to talk about his story, and very therapeutic, and has been a very important part of our grief journey.
I don't know if I would describe it as a joy.
I like talking about him.
Well, I like talking about him, but I don't like reliving kind of what we all went through. It's like a scab you just kind of keep ripping off.
Yeah.
Let's see how fast you grow back before we rip you off again.
Kia, I think you and I talked about this, but it was another parallel in our stories. So I also was pregnant again very soon after losing Bo. So Bo was born January of 13. Ben was born December of 13. But he also was a traumatic birth, and we almost lost Ben. And so I know exactly what that feels like. I know what it felt like to be rushed to that emergency C-section. And for my doctor to be looking at me with tears in her eyes and just saying, "Robin, we're not going to lose another one." Right. Mm-hmm. So pregnancy after loss is difficult. Mm-hmm. By no stretch of the imagination is there any part of that that's easy. But what a gift when they are finally here and protected by their angel siblings, for sure.
Yes.
So Ryan, I know this will be hard for you, but I do want to ask, because dads play such a special role in all of this, and I think sometimes they're left behind in this storytelling. Every dad wants a boy, right? And I know you love those girls, something fierce. But what has that been like, having to say goodbye to your son? Or grieving just not having a son right now?
What's that?
Grieving not having your son on earth.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, and it's really hard to describe and articulate kind of I think any pain and loss, and there's lots of books, lots of quotes, lots of articles on, your grief is a measure of the love, yeah. And it's hard because I think that the priest said something before Wells's funeral that has just really stuck with me, and probably think about it often. He says, the hard thing with infant loss is a lot of times it's a death of dreams,
Yeah.
because you don't have the memories that you have with others, and there's certainly a lot of truth to that. And so it's you never, you move forward, right? But you never really move on from the grief, and it's got sort of this weird circular motion where it'll just kind of knock you in the face when you're not really expecting it. It's been hard. I admittedly struggle with seeing little guys that would be about his age, and I honestly got nephews, sons of friends, and it's really difficult. It'll sometimes stop me in my tracks, take my breath away. And I think maybe there's that part of it that's maybe a little bit different for me and kind of my journey with it, if you will, that I'm fine talking about this with, the people that are, you're comfortable with, or, that kind of understand it. And a lot of times it's just having somebody there that'll just kind of sit with you in the grief, kind of sit with you in the mud and just kind of let you process it. There's not really anything you can say or anything you can do that can kind of help somebody out, but know that it's just sort of a process. And so it's been hard, and it's ever evolving. And I imagine it's going to continue to be that way forever. And, but you just try to take it one day at a time, one step at a time. And I think we can, what's been interesting about it is having, 3 healthy girls, and having Penelope that's probably got, definitely some Wells personality there, where you just try to find the joy and kind of, the love and everything that we have, and move forward. You don't move on. If that makes sense. I don't know if I answered the question.
No, you did, but I appreciate you.
And that's absolutely the hardest thing for me to see, as far as watching Ryan go through his grief journey, is when there is a little boy around that is around Wells' age. I know exactly, I mean, my head goes there too, but I can just see it in his eyes. I know exactly what he's feeling in that moment. And it's so hard. And I think I know that's something we appreciate about No Foot Too Small, Robin, is just that the organization has just really made it known that every grief journey is different, right? They accept you no matter what that looks like to you, no matter where you are on it. And we've had to navigate that. We've handled this very differently at different points in time, and we've just had to trust that that God has this, that He's going to help us to navigate, each of us to navigate in our own ways, and that He has that He has our marriage, no matter what kind of challenges grief has or will put on that. And so, yes.
I really appreciate you both sharing that. I think we say at No Foot Too Small all the time, if all we ever do is normalize this conversation, right? If all we ever do is give a voice to pregnancy and infant loss, we will have succeeded. But it is sharing those intimate details of the journey that I think make all the difference. It's giving permission to other fathers to recognize, right, that it's okay that when I see a little boy, I really struggle. That's totally normal, and it doesn't mean I love my daughter any less. So I do appreciate you sharing that. When we talk about just sitting in our grief, right, or sitting next to someone in our grief and not having to say the right thing or do the right thing, that was actually the goal behind the No for Too Small golf events. Because all of those years ago, my husband, Ryan, had said, Robin, we do so much for moms, but we don't do enough for the dads. We should host a golf event. And I laughed and looked at him like, yeah, we should. You mean I should? But that was the goal, is just to get dads at the time out on the course, whether or not they say anything to each other about the loss, but to be sitting on the cart with somebody who understands. And that's not even always another lost dad. It could be somebody in their circle, right? Their support circle, spending that time and just sitting in it with them and allowing the joy and the grief to coexist on the golf course.
Yeah.
And I'd like to just commend you all for, I'd not been to the golf event, love to golf. We hope that's something that works for this summer. But, we were able to attend the gala in the fall. And I thought one of the nice touches of that event was just the dads that had lost, that had kind of the pin or whatever to designate it. And it was the first time I've ever experienced sort of large scale number of men that you knew went through the same thing you went through. But you experience it in the most disarming way possible, because you don't have to say anything. You don't have to, you can, but I think there was just a calming element to know that, like, all right, I'm not walking through this by myself. And it's also interesting when you go through this, how when you start talking to people where you find other people have gone through it. It's just one of these things where it's not like you kind of raise your hand and say, hey, who else has, gone through this, and, let's network or whatever. But it's been an interesting process to, I guess, uncover and learn. And, the others that have had the same, difficult, experience. And there's no real playbook for how you deal with it. But there's a certain comfort factor there, I guess.
Absolutely. I think, like you said, just being able to have these conversations and normalize it, and to understand that there are so many others that have experienced, are experiencing, will experience either the exact or something very similar. And that's why we are just so grateful for you, Robin, and for No Foot Too Small, that you've created the space where parents can do that. Like you said, you can sit and say nothing at all, or they can have a conversation and tell the whole story, and just find some level of comfort in that.
I love that you guys are touching on kind of the unspoken connection in this community. And to your point, the power and significance in some of the smallest gestures. And I know one of the most special parts of your connection is the blue balloon story that we had the honor to share in our year-end letter last year. And so I was so excited to have you on here and help share a little bit more on a deeper level, really the significance behind that story and what it meant for all three of you.
We'll let Kia tell the story.
I get to tell it? Okay. I'm happy to tell it. So we had Wells' funeral memorial, and I can't remember if it was that same day or if it was the next day. My two brothers and my sister-in-laws and Ryan and I went out to golf. We all love to golf, and so we were out golfing. The guys were ahead of us gals, and we were on the 7th hole on our golf course, and I was teeing off, and I heard my sister-in-law say, Kia, look up. And so I hit the ball and I looked up, and there was a single blue balloon floating across the sky. Have no idea where it could have come from. And we were out in the middle of the golf course, single blue balloon floating by. And I immediately thought, I want to jump in the cart and try to get a picture of it or a video of it to capture this moment. and I didn't know if Ryan had seen it, so I wanted to do that for him. So as soon as I got in the car and we started driving to it, the balloon disappeared. It was gone. Um, and so that has, since that moment,
Was that the
been,
first Wells wink?
sorry,
Was that the
that was
first
first Wells wink.
Wells wink?
Yeah. So first Wells wink, and has since been a symbol to us and to our family that he is always with us. He is always there. And we've had several other moments like that, but this one I would say has been the most powerful. Just one of those like, wow, how is that even possible? Just a God moment, a Wells wink. And it has since, thanks to No Foot Too Small, grown into something so much more than just a Wells moment. You guys have made an entire campaign out of the blue balloon, which is beautiful, and it's now not only a symbol of Wells, but of all of our angels that we have lost. All the angels that are part of the No Foot Too Small community and beyond. And so I hope you know that we are very grateful for you for taking that on and for just making it something so much bigger than it was to begin with. So, and Robin, so sweet, was out on out on the golf course, had just met her the night before, out on the golf course the next day, and out of nowhere, Robin shows up with a blue balloon and ties it to my golf cart. Just a beautiful moment. And we went to the gala, in your annual gala in Iowa City, and I showed up in our hotel room, and there was a blue balloon in the hotel room. They follow me everywhere, thanks to Robin. And we sat down at our table at the beginning of the gala, and there was a blue balloon at our table. And so thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for that, sincerely.
There is so much that this No Foot Too Small community does and that this mission is working towards. But if we ever get away from the fact that what is most important are our angel stories, then we've lost our way, right? It is about the fact that they are still here, and it is our job to honor and celebrate them. And so I'm grateful for Wells. He brought me you, and I really believe that he and Bo and all their buddies are up there just orchestrating all of this, right? And I think I say this all the time also, but it's just the beginning. They are just leading us in what's next. And what I would tell you or any other parent is you just have to keep your eyes and ears open, right? They are sending us the signs and they're telling us what's next. We have to listen. It isn't always easy. It's the hardest work I've ever done, honestly.
But that is one of the, right. But I truly believe that that's one of the, if you want to call it silver lining or beautiful things that we've experienced, is that it has opened our eyes and opened our minds to just the little everyday things, and having appreciation for those things and looking for the signs, and not just brushing off, a cardinal bird that, lands on our plant outside as like nothing. No, that's a sign. That's a Wells wink. And so we are grateful for that.
I always say grief carves this hollowness into us that's just impossible to describe. But when we reclaim the power to fill that space with something meaningful, whether that's gratitude or celebration or, whatever that purpose becomes for us, we experience the world differently than other people. And I think it's beautiful that you found permission to do that right away and so early in your journey. And I hope that inspires other families to feel the same permission to do the same, and to, start to find meaning in that space within themselves in a new way. So I think I love that.
And that's what Ryan and I would hope too, that by us sharing our story, that we can help other families to understand that yes, you can sit back in your grief and bring yourself to those like deep, dark places every day, or you can choose to step out of it and move forward and make something good of the situation. And we just hope that, sharing. I actually had a friend text me before we stepped in here today. She knew that we were recording, and she just said, I think that is incredible that you're sharing your story, your heartaches, and that by sharing that, you will help others feel less scared in their own heartaches. And I truly believe that. And I hope that that's something that will come from us sharing today.
It absolutely will.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I'm glad that your friends and family acknowledge that for you too.
And put together such cute outfits for that golf foursome. I mean, your sister-in-law's a rock when it comes to that. That was great.
I think we won an award for that, didn't we?
Yeah, I think you might have.
Best dressed or best themed team outfit.
We'll see what Ryan wears this year.
Yeah, I know. We've set the bar high, honey.
Nothing fancy.
Get ready.
Well, do you want to ask him the most powerful but most difficult question of the day?
It's my favorite question to ask
boy.
our guests. If you could say something to Wells today, what would that be?
That is a difficult question. It brings me to Ryan's letters to Bo that he shares at the galas. We talk about in our family from time to time about what Wells would be doing right now or what he would look like, or but if I could see him today and say one thing to him today, I would tell him that he is so very loved, the same as his sisters are by us and by all of his family, and that he is blessed that he didn't have to ever experience any of the pain or the heartache of this world, and that he's in the best place that he can be, and that we will see him again someday.
Yes.
So for now, we're needed here.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Would you add anything, Ryan?
Ditto.
Go Bears.
Oh no, cut that out.
Cubs.
Okay, all right.
We
We'll
can
go
agree
baseball.
We could
We're done.
find a middle ground on there.
Yeah. And I know that's a really hard question. And Jackie, you do such a great job of acknowledging we may answer that question differently on different days. Maybe that's why Ryan's letter to Bo every year is different also. But so much gratitude for you and for Wells and for your willingness to share this story, giving permission to all of those who follow us.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you both. Thank you for holding the space for us to share.
Oh my goodness, of course.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the No Fit Too Small podcast. We would love to connect with you. If you are a family experiencing pregnancy or infant loss, please reach out at nofittoosmall.org. As always, we owe a huge thank you to Storyline Multimedia for helping us hold space for these really important conversations. And if you are interested in sponsoring an episode or just getting involved in our mission, we will have information on how you can connect with us in the show notes. We'll catch you at the next episode.